So hello and welcome everyone to Python Foundation course. In this session today, we'll be covering loops, control statements, and at the end, we'll be seeing some questions related to loops. Okay. Now to begin with, because we are having this session after long, what I'll do is I'll quickly cover whatever we have seen till now. So we have seen some introduction of Python, what is Python, how Python works, applications of Python, how to set up Python. You need to download Python, install, set environment variables, test it. Then you need one of the IEDs. Okay, and after that, we get started with our first program, print hello world, hello Python. Then we had talked about our goal. Our goal was to write a calculator program, which is a very basic one. Anyways, I'll be covering a project at the end, which will help you get a grip on Python. Then you have variables. I hope everybody knows what variable is. You store data in variables. Variables are a placeholder. Plus in Python, there is no separate concept of constants and variables. They're almost the same. It's just that the developers consider capital letter variable names as constant, but Python as a language doesn't enforce constants. Okay, it only has variables. Then Python is a typed inferred programming language. That means you don't have to specify a data type while defining a variable. It automatically defines it for you. Then we have different variables, how to write a variable, what are the basic nomenclature for writing a variable. You can only have underscore, 0 to 9 alphabet, 0 to 9 digits, and A to Z alphabets. These are reserved keywords. Then quotations, comment, you use hash to comment. Then indentation, lines and indentation, it's a very important concept in Python. In case of Python, you'll have to indent the same amount of space or tab before your lines to specify a block of code. And remember, either you use spaces or you use tab. Okay, don't mix tabs and spaces. Let's say in this first line you give tabs, in the second line you give spaces, though they look in the same block, but they'll give you an error. So this usually happens with people. So make sure that you either use tabs or you use space. I hope this is making sense. In case it's not, you can stop me and ask questions. Then this is how you take input using input functions, and whatever you write here gets printed on the screen. Using new line, you represent that you want this to be printed in the new line. Then how you output on screen, like this, you put things in double quote, whatever you print and write inside a double quote gets printed directly. And using comma, you can concatenate your print statements. And if you want to print a variable, you just give its name directly. You don't have to put it in double quotes, because if you put it in double quotes, it will be considered as a string. Then if you want to write multiple statements in same line, just give a semicolon. Then this is how you can assign multiple values in a same line, A comma B comma C. So 1 will be assigned to A, 2 will be assigned to B, 3 will be John will be assigned to C. Okay, then data type. So whatever you store in this variable is a data, and this data has a type. So we have a lot of data types in Python. These are all the data types. So you have numeric, int, float, complex, boolean, mapping, dictionary, and then for binary you have byte, byte array, byte memory. So difference between byte and byte array is bytes are immutable and byte arrays are mutable. Okay, and again with lists and tuples, tuples are immutable and lists are mutable. Basically you can change the content of your tuples, content of lists. Then you have range function. Range function gives you a list of numbers depending upon the range that you provide. We'll see this function when we write code for loop, don't worry. Then you have, for set, you have set and frozen set. So sets are basic sets, which we have anyways discussed, and frozen sets are immutable sets. Once created, you cannot change their value. And then you have str string. Okay, so again, these data types are with respect to Python 3. So in case you don't remember any of these, you can take a snapshot of this and go through them after this class. But it's always better to have this understanding of all these data types. Then I won't get into the details of these data types. Okay, string, and you have lists. Lists are ordered, mutable, and allow duplicate. This is how you define your list. This is how you access them. Tuples are ordered, immutable, allow duplicate. This is how you create a tuple, and this is how you access them. Now dictionaries are unordered and ordered. Why we say them they are unordered? Because you cannot access dictionaries based on index. You have to use keys to access the value of dictionary. Then they are changeable. You can add, remove items in your dictionary. They don't allow duplicate. Why do you say that they don't allow duplicate? Because if a key is duplicate, if you have same key in a dictionary, then your value will keep changing. So duplicates are basically not allowed. And this is how you create a dictionary. Egg, 3 plates, rice, 2 plates. So 3 eggs, 2 rice. So how many eggs? 3. How many plates of rice? 2. So this is how you can store data in your dictionaries. There can be multiple ways of storing the data, but while accessing, you'll have to give the key name over here. And whatever is the key name, depending upon that, you get a corresponding value. Then you have set. Sets are unordered. By unordered, I mean once you enter a value in a set, you cannot access those values using index, because set don't keep in any order, and they are unchangeable. What do I mean by unchangeable? Basically, once a set is created, okay, you cannot change its item. Why you cannot change its item? Because you cannot access its item. What you can do, either you can remove an item from set, or you can add a new item to a set. So that's why you see an asterisk over here. By unchangeable, I mean if you want to change 3 to 4, you cannot do that. You'll have to remove 3 and add 4 to a set. And as set does not allow duplicate, it will only have a single value in it. Okay. So do revise them, okay, guys? Do revise them. Just practice them. And if you still have any problem with these data types, do let me know. Then this is how you create an empty set. And this is again curly braces, same like dictionary. But to define an empty set, you write like this, because otherwise your Python interpreter will get confused if you write parentheses like these curly braces like this, because then it won't be able to understand you're talking about a dictionary or a set. So you define an empty set like this, and a set with some items like this, James, comma, 2, 3, and this is not sequenced. Maybe next time you'll run Python will be at the first place. Maybe next time 2 will be at first place. Maybe next time 3 will be at first place. So you can just remove and add values, and it won't allow duplicates. So set is very useful in some cases. Then you have these additional data types: frozen set, boolean, range, byte array. Okay, so you can go through them. Then these are type conversions. Again, this is an important concept. I remember we haven't covered this in a previous session, so I would like you to go through this and understand this by heart. This is very important. This is core of computer science. Okay, so you have characters A, B, C, D, and all the characters that you have on your desktop. So you remember in our first session, I was saying all these values are converted into ASCII code. Let's say for A it is 65, for small a it will be 97, for B it will be 66, for small b it will be 98. And subsequently, for all the characters that you have on your keyboard, you have a ASCII code, and this ASCII code will be anywhere from 0 to 256. Why? Because you represent this ASCII value into binary, and because you can represent only in 8 bits, you have 2 power 8 options, which is 256. But nowadays you have emojis, you have Hindi, you have Arabic, you have other lot of languages which are getting added to your computer language. Okay, so how can you represent all those values just by using 256 characters? You cannot. You need a big range. To solve that problem, Unicode was born. So now in the current world, we don't use ASCII anymore. All the values, all the characters that you have are converted into a Unicode. A code point is generated, and this is what a code point looks like. So characters like explanatory mark, and I don't know what this symbol is even called, but this also has a Unicode value now. And what this Unicode does is it has a bigger range. It can hold millions of numbers now. This was only able to hold 256 characters. This can hold millions of numbers. And once you get this value, you can convert this value into a binary number using UTF-8, UTF-16, UTF-32 encodings or decoding. What is UTF? Unicode Transformation Format. 8 means it it has a backward compatibility with ASCII. Now, what does that mean? You see here we just have 8 bits. What does that mean? This exclamatory mark is there on your keyboard. If you see, it's on 1, on top of 1. So this was already represented in ASCII. So here in Unicode also, we represent it in the same way so that our systems doesn't break. But what UTF-8 does is it provides you a flexibility of defining values from 8-bit to 32 bits. So emojis will have somewhere around 32 bits. They'll have a 32-bit sequence because they're very different in nature, right? You don't have them on your keyboard directly. You have to have a combination of some keys to define your emojis. So similarly, this character, you see it has 16 bits. So UTF-8 supports multiple bits, and that's the result. Nowadays we use Unicode and UTF-8, 16 or 32 converters. Okay, so whenever you see encode UTF-8 or decode UTF-8, don't get confused. This is just about converting your character into binary values. Okay, a lot of people get confused. You won't believe, even I used to get confused when after seeing UTF-8 and UTF-16. And once you start working with web scraping or start working with machine learning, you'll realize that while you're generating data from a lot of different web sources, you will have to encounter with encoding and decoding related problems. So that time this understanding will come in handy. In case you're not able to understand this, just go through this once again, and I strongly believe you will be able to. Okay. Next was operators. So we had arithmetic, comparison, assignment, logical, bitwise, membership, and identity. I won't get into the details of these because we have already covered them in detail. Then one thing that we have missed was preferences or precedence. So precedence means this has the highest precedence, parenthesis, then you have exponents, and then unary operators like plus x, minus x, component, this is bitwise x, then you have percentage, mod, you call it mod basically, not percentage, then you have divide, floor divide, multiplication, subtraction, addition, then bitwise operators, and and. So this is how your precedence is. So first preference is given to this operator. Right, I hope all of you have studied BODMAS already, so you can understand this pretty well, right? But let's say the tricky part is when you have all of these operators in a equation, then which operator gets a higher precedence? How do you define that? Because all of them have the same precedence. So then comes the concept of associativity. Using that, you identify which operator should be, or which operation should be performed first. Okay, so you can just go through this list, and I would urge that you'll also have to remember this list, but it's easy. Okay, first is parenthesis, then you have exponents, and then you have these divide, multiply, plus, minus, bitwise, and then XOR, OR, and then these comparison operators and membership operators, identity operators, and then at the end your logical operators. So this has the lowest priority. Okay, this is important. Then comes the concept of associativity. When two operators have same precedence, in that case what you do, you use the concept of associativity, and it says associativity is the order in which an expression is evaluated that has multiple operators of same precedence. Almost all the operators have left to right associativity. What does that mean? All the expressions are calculated from left side to right side. So first of all, left hand side operand will be calculated with respect to your operation, and then the right hand side. But there is an exception, and that is exponent function. In case of exponent, you will have to go from the right to left side. And there are some cases where associativity doesn't work, and that is between assignment and comparison operators. In those cases, you cannot apply associativity. So let me quickly give you an example of this. Otherwise, it will get difficult for you to understand. Let me see if I have this. Precedence. Okay, I have it. So like this. So minus has a lower precedence as compared to plus. what will be the output? So first you will do 2 into 4, that is 8. 8 minus 10, you will get 2. Okay. Similarly, in this case, parenthesis has the highest priority, so you will do 6 into 2, that is 12. And then in case of or and, so this is very important. Okay. Now meal is fruit and money is 0. If meal equal fruit or meal equal sandwich and money greater than 2, then lunch can be prepared, otherwise cannot be delivered. But if you see over here, it says lunch can be delivered. Neither money is greater than 2, neither meal is sandwich, still we are able to go through this. We are getting true for this statement, and this is a big problem. Okay, I don't know how many of you are able to see the problem in this statement, but raise your hands who are able to see the problem in this statement. Because as a developer, you might see you have written the right statement, but it says lunch can be prepared, though it should have been cannot be prepared, because money is not greater than 2. Only this is correct, but the way you have written this statement is incorrect, because you haven't used the concept of precedence and associativity properly. Okay, that's the biggest problem in this. A lot of people make this problem, especially in case of Python. So how do you resolve this? So you resolve it like this. Basically, it should be written like this. You should have these braces around it. Now, why there is a problem? Because if you go back to this PPT, you see and has a higher priority than or. As a result, what happened was this got calculated first. Okay. So money is greater than 0, false. Sandwich equals to meals is also false. So this became false. Okay. And this was true. So in case of or, this became true. This entire statement became true, and it said lunch can be delivered. Whereas the actual answer should be lunch cannot be delivered. Why? Because instead of writing it without braces, you'll have to write it like this. Either your meal should be fruit or sandwich and money should be greater than 2. Then it makes more sense, right? And then you see the answer is cannot deliver. Why? Because now the precedence of this braces is more. This round bracket is more than and or. So first this was calculated and this came out to be true, but this came out to be false, and as a result, false, cannot deliver lunch. Okay, so keep a note of this. This can happen with you as well, and you might keep debugging your code and keep thinking why my code is giving a wrong result, why my code is giving wrong result, because computer is never wrong. Whatever you tell your computer to perform, it will perform. Okay, so it's a dumb machine. It just performs what you ask it to perform, though not considering AI. So if you consider AI, then computer is no more dumb. It's getting intelligent. Okay, so next is concept of associativity. Again, guys, I'm emphasizing a lot on this. Remember this. Now, associativity is mostly from left to right. So in this case, floor division and this, they both have same precedence. So then what will happen? The concept of associativity will get kicked in, and from left hand side, what will happen? 5 into 2 is 10. 10 divided by 3 will give you 3, because it's a floor division. So 10 by 3, you know, right? 3 will come, because it's 3.33333, and floor says it will only print the integral part, so you get 3. Okay, so next is, again, associativity is from left to right hand side if they have same precedence. But in this case, it doesn't have, because you have brackets over here. So this will get calculated first. This returns 0. So 0 into 5 will give you 0. Okay. Now there is an exception in this, and that exception is this exponent. So in case of exponent, the associativity is from right side to left hand side. So first the right hand side part will get calculated, and then left hand side part will get calculated. So what happens is it becomes like this: 2's power 9. Okay, and you get an answer of 512. Whereas if it would have been from the left to right side, your answer would have been this: 2's power 3 is what? 8. 8 power 2, 64. So you see the difference. So this is very important to understand. Associativity in case of exponent is from right hand side to left hand side. But best way out is always use these brackets in order to make sure that you are performing the operation correctly, because brackets have the highest precedence. I think this concept we haven't covered in our previous session, so I quickly wanted to cover this with you. Now moving on next. By the way, any questions with respect to associativity and precedence? No? Okay, let's move on. Flow control. So decision making is something we have already covered. Based on your condition, if your condition is true, we'll go to conditional code and we'll run that code. Otherwise, we'll go to else part, and then you have if, else if, and else. So if this is correct, then go ahead and don't consider the remaining statements. But if this is wrong, go to else if, then other else if, and if none of them is correct, go to else. So I think this is anyways clear. We have already covered extensively decision making. Now let's come to loops. I've already taken a lot of time, but I think it was effective. Okay, I see, no doubt. Any doubt till this point, guys? Any doubt before we get started with loops? No? Okay, goody good. So what is loop? Loop, as the name suggests, is a process of performing a task. I'm not saying the same task. Maybe the parameters of the task might change. So that's why I'm not saying the same task, but a type of same task. So performing a same type of a task over and over again until your conditions are satisfied. So this is what a loop is. Again, if you try to take a real world example, we can take an example of a newspaper delivery boy who tries to deliver a newspaper. He tries to deliver a newspaper in your locality. He starts from the first house, he keeps delivering it till the end house. Either his newspapers end, then he'll stop delivering, or the houses end, then he'll stop delivering. So under any of these two conditions, he'll stop delivering, but until he has the collection of newspapers, until he has some houses left to deliver, he'll keep delivering the newspapers. So that's how loops work. Loop will keep performing the task until you ask your loops to get terminated, or you ask them to stop, or the conditions become false. That's the basic concept of loop. And the reason why we have loops is because loops help us perform a very complex task or a iterative task in very few lines. So that's the beauty of loop. Okay, now that being said, let's try to understand how loops are. So you go and check for a condition. If condition is true, you perform the conditional code and keep doing the same thing until the condition is false. Okay, now there are two loops in Python. One is for loop, another one is while loop. So what for loop does? In case of Python, for loop is little different from C++ for loop. So in case of Python, for loop is based on a sequence. Okay, executes a sequence of statement multiple times and abbreviates the code that manages the loop variable. Now, when I say this is sequential, it means this is based on a sequence. So it will keep picking values from a sequence and it will keep performing the task until you have values in your sequence. Okay, not like your for loop in C++. But if you want to implement functionalities where you have a condition and on basis of a certain condition, you want to keep iterating over your task, then you'll have to use while loop in that case. Okay. Now let me quickly show you what does that mean. So this is for loop. In case of for loop in Python, this is how your syntax look like. For, you give your variable name. Let's say mostly we give I, right? So this is your I. In, this is membership operator, if you guys remember, in sequence. So you will be given a sequence here. Let's say sequence of 1 to 10. You'll be given a sequence here, and this is the place where your range function will come in handy. Okay, you'll be giving a sequence, and one by one, i's value will keep changing from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And once you exhaust this entire sequence, your statements will stop executing. So this is the functionality of for loop in case of Python. Nothing else. You need a sequence for sure, and your variable will iterate on the basis of the sequence. Okay, but if you want to run some condition based looping, then you can use while loop. Let's say you have a condition, until that condition is true you want to continue your loop, then you only have an option of while loop here in Python. They don't have some extra stuff like you have in C++. In C++, you can perform a same task with for loop, same task with while loop as well. But here you cannot, to some extent. Okay, because here while loop is more powerful, because while loop is condition based and this is sequence based. Though you can use this capability of for loop and while loop, but while loop's functionality and capability is little typical to utilize in for loop. Okay. Anyways, once we get into the hands-on, you'll get to know what I'm saying. But if you're able to understand even now, that's really good. So you have a condition. If that condition is true, you execute the condition code and you keep doing it until your condition is false. But in case of for loop, you have a sequence of items. Until you have values in your sequence, you keep executing. And once everything is done, completed, then you move out. Okay. Now that being said, before moving to loop control statement like break, continue, and pass, let's try out some questions around while and for loop. Okay. So first is this. First is our for loop. Give me a second. Let me quickly comment out the unused part. Okay, now it is commented. So this is your for loop. Here you see I have a sequence, I have a list, and this list will be passed to my for loop. Why? For execution. So once I pass this list to my for loop, then it will work. And this is one way. I can write L over here. Give me a second, guys. Give me a second. Okay, good. So what I can do is I can comment here. In case you're not able to understand, stop me then and there. Okay. So now what will happen for I in L? So one by one, I will pick 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. It will multiply it by 2 and print the results. Okay. So where is the error? Error is at this statement. Why? Because of this. Okay. So this is how your output looks like. Ends with this. So that's why you have a slash here. So first is 4, 2 into 2, 4, 8, 12, 16 and 20. Now, instead of this, if you want to use a range function. Now range function, what it does, it takes a starting value, which is -5, and it takes an ending value. What is the starting value? -5 and ending value is 10. So if you run this, you'll get -10, -8, till 18. Why till 18? Because 10 is not considered. Last, it will go till 9. Okay. So starting from -5, ... till 9. This is how your range function works. So basically, it will also give you a sequence like this. And using this, you can iterate over your for. Clear? Any questions, anybody? If not, we'll quickly move to the next. Then there is another way of writing a clean, simple code in Python in just a single line and perform your, what do you say? Okay, what is this? It says syntax invalid. Why is it invalid? Let me try it this way. Okay, for I in range, for I if. Okay, let me remove this. So you see what happened here. Okay, so somebody is saying, sir, how do you use for loop for strings? So anyways, give me a minute. I have another example where I'll show how to use using string. Okay, don't worry. So this is how you write your for loop in a single line. For loop, and then you have a list symbol here, and then you give this I. What it will do is it will perform the task inside this list directly. Okay, you will have this sequence here. You can give your if conditions and all if else conditions here itself, like if I mod 2 equal 0, then something else 2 by 1 by 2, so something of this sort. Okay, so what this is doing is, if I is mod 2, then you print I as it is, otherwise you do I by 2. So when you start with 1, because I is not an even number, 1 is not an even number, so you do it half, and in case of odd, in case of even number, you print them as it is. Okay, so this is how you can apply if else also inside your single statement along with for. Okay, clear? Any questions in this? Why is this symbol used, sir? So this is mod. You forgot, this is mod. This is doing mod, modulus function. Ten mod 2, what will this give you? 0. 10 divided by 2, and then you take its remainder. Okay, remainder. So its remainder will be 0. So that's why you get 0. Okay, now next. What is next? Next you have list of mango, apple, banana. Same thing happens here as well. So let me use something else instead of this. Okay. Instead of writing fruits, let me write lang. And what is lang? Lang is my string. So if I want to use string as part of my sequence here, then I can do the same thing. And it will do the same thing, one by one. Okay, again. One by one, it will pick the values from Python and it will keep printing here. Clear? So if this is clear, let's quickly move to while loop. Okay, and here is our while loop. Now what does while loop says? While loop says it's a condition based. So here is the condition. If count is less than 2, until then, keep running this task. Once the condition gets failed, stop executing this task. Count, write the value. If it is a multiple of 2, then you write found an even number. Otherwise, using this, you keep iterating the value of count. You'll have to keep incrementing the value of count in order to make this condition false at some point of time. If you don't do that, sir, can't we print the string in a single line? Yes, exactly, you can do this. So you remember here we were using and. So instead of this, just give this. Okay, and then you'll be able to print it in same line. Just give and equal to double quotes. That way you're specifying you want to and your print with nothing. So that's how you'll be able to print your strings in the same line. Clear? Now next, let me run this, then it will be easier for you to understand. So it says 0 is less than 5, even found. Yes, 0 is an even number in this case. Okay, so though 0 is not considered as even number, but in this case, because this will satisfy this condition. So 1 is less than 5, found an odd number. 2 is less than 2. Why it is saying like that? 2 is less than 2. Okay, you see why is it saying that 2 is less than 2? Because the moment value of count, the value of count became equal to 2. What happened? We exited from this loop, and the moment we exited from this loop, we went to this else condition that is in same lines with your while loop. Okay, so this is another capability in Python. You can add else to your while statement as well. So let's say once this condition fails, you want to do some else thing, then you can do it like this. Otherwise, if you don't do it, that's also fine. It won't give you any error, but yeah, this is how you can do it. Clear? Any questions, guys? I think this is very simple. It's just that you'll have to understand and practice it a little bit. Is it clear? Shall we move to control statements? If you don't say yes, no, I'll consider that it is clear to everybody. Again, I'll say the same thing, guys. Please ask doubts if you have any, because I know the concept and I might assume few things. But if you want to take advantage of these sessions, then you will have to ask questions. Otherwise, if you're understanding, then that's good. Okay, I think it's clear to everybody. Good. Then let's get started with control statements. So now what are these control statements? Once again, sir. So what you want me to cover once again? You want me to cover loop or while loop? For loop or while loop? You want me to cover, what do you want me to cover once again? Rishmita, what, okay, both, okay, fine, not a problem. Let's do it. So in for loop, you need a sequence on top of which you will run your loop, okay? Like in this case, we have a range function, which is starting from -5 and going till 9. So this list will be generated for range, and one by one, I will pick these values and perform the task, print the result, and keep performing the same thing over and over again until this sequence is exhausted. Clear? Any question in this? Same over here, lang. Until you have characters in your Python, until you have a character in your lang variable, your loop will keep performing the printing task. Any doubt in this? Don't you think this is simple, straight? Whatever you have, you need a sequence, and whatever manipulation or processing you want to apply on this sequence, you can apply each and every element of a sequence. This is for loop, nothing else. Clear or not? You'll have to write yes or no, otherwise I won't be able to understand. Okay, I hope you understood. Good. Next is your while loop. While loop is your condition based loop. So in this, you have this condition. Okay. So this is your condition while count is less than 2. That means until this count value is less than 2, I'll keep performing the tasks that are assigned to me. Till here, I'll keep performing the tasks until this value of count is less than 2. So in order to make this false, I have added this value variable count equals to count plus 1 after each iteration. Otherwise, if I don't add this, it will be an infinite loop because this condition will never be false and we'll keep performing the task. So this is very important. You need an initialization, initial value. You need a condition and you need an incrementer. This is fixed. In case of while loop, you need a initializer, you need a condition, and then you need a incrementer, something to increment the value. Okay, and in between you can perform your task. Clear? We'll try a few questions and then you'll be able to understand better once you try yourself. Okay, okay, good, it's clear. Happy to hear that. Fine, guys. Now what are control statements? Control statement are used to change the normal execution of your loop. In case of for loop, your for loop was running until the sequence of elements get exhausted, right? And your while loop is running until your while condition is true. Now if you want to change their flow depending upon some other conditions, then how will you do that? You'll do that using control statements. And what are the different control statements? Break and continue. Pass is just a syntactically null operator which does nothing. It's just there to correct the syntax. That's it. It doesn't have any significance pass. Anyways, I'll talk about this, but these are two important control statements, break and continue. What does break do? Terminates the loop statement and transfers the execution to the statement immediately following the loop. So basically it terminates your loop and transfers the flow to the end of the loop. Basically, wherever you are, if you encounter a break statement inside your loop will end then and there itself. It won't move ahead. In case of continue, whenever a continue statement is encountered inside a loop, the loop will skip that iteration. Basically, whatever is written inside the loop after continue will be skipped for that particular iteration, and it will go back and check the condition again and start again. Okay. So now that being said, let's quickly try to understand from some examples. So this is our break statement. Okay. So let me comment this out. What will break do? So let's say for letter in Python, if letter equal to h, the moment letter is equal to h, we'll break. Now what will happen? What will be the output? You guys tell me what will be the output in this case. Okay, in the meantime, I'll talk about the second while. Initialization var equal to 10 and condition is until var is greater than 0. Until var is greater than 0, keep running this loop. And that's why I'm decrementing the value of var. Okay. But while decrementing as well, the moment value of var becomes 5, I'll break it. I'll break the loop. And what will happen? You guys tell me what will be the output in first case and what will be the output in second case. And then I'll execute this for you. I want all of you to answer. What will be the output in first case? The output will be KYT. KYT, because the moment H is encountered, we'll break. We'll skip, or not actually skip, we'll end this loop. We'll end this loop. And before H, you have K, you have Y, you have T. All these will get printed. Clear? Similarly for while. Okay. So for letter in Python, okay, it will start from K. Letter will first of all take K. In second iteration, it will take Y. In third iteration, it will take T. In fourth iteration, it will take H. In fifth iteration, it will take O. And in last iteration, it will take N. Correct? The moment it takes K, it goes here. See if letter equal to H. No, it is not equal to. K and H are not same. So it will just go and print this. You get your output. Same it will do with Y. Again, this is not same, it will go and print it. You do the same thing with T, you go and print it. The moment H is encountered, letter becomes equal to H and break. What does our break statement does? Whenever a break is encountered, it will end your loop then and there. It gets ended, you come out of this loop, you come here, this point. This is done. And that's why you see this. Clear? Yes or no? Clear? Okay, perfect. Next, if var equals to 10 and while condition is until var is greater than 0, we'll continue the loop. So this is the actual flow. And every time keep decrementing the value of var so that this condition becomes false after some time. And whenever you see a value, just print it. So first iteration, value of var is 10. So first time it comes here, condition is true. 10 is greater than 0. It prints 10. decrements the value of var, checks if var equal to 5. No, it is not. It is equals to 9. It goes up here again. 9 greater than 0. Yes, 9 is greater than 0. It prints 9 here. Decrements the value of 9 to 8. Where is 8 now? 8 equal to 5. No, it is not. Go up. Print 7. Here you get 6. Again, same thing. Nothing works out. You go here. You print 5. Oh, no, sorry. You print 6 here, right? Now you come here. This value becomes 5. The moment 5 equals to 5, what will happen? Break statement gets encountered. We'll exit from this loop then and there itself and print done, and we are done, complete. Is it clear to everybody? Is the break statement clear to everybody? Any questions, anybody? As the name suggests, these are control statements. These are used to control the loop's flow depending upon certain conditions or depending upon the way you use them. Clear or not? I want yes and no from everybody. If you're not responding, I'll consider that you guys have understood it. And don't hesitate in asking again. Good, goody good guys, goody good. Now let's see continuous example. Let's see some continuous examples. Okay, again, and pass is a very dumb control statement. You are defining something and you just write pass. It just makes your code syntactically correct, but we'll discuss that in a minute. Let's talk about continue here. So same question. Let me take Python here. For letter in Python, one by one letter will pick K, Y, T, H, O, N, one by one. Now the moment letter becomes equal to H, you will experience a continue statement here. And what does continue say? Whenever a loop encounters continue, it will skip the remaining part of that iteration. Means this will not be executed. After continue, the control will go back over here. So it will not get printed. So now tell me what will be the output in case of this example. Correct. One guy has given the correct answer. Let's wait for others. And what will be the output in this case? Here again, var equals to 10. Until var is greater than 0, we'll continue the loop where we keep decreasing, and the moment var is equal to 5, we'll continue. So what will be the output in this case? Let me execute this. Tell me guys, you have another 20 seconds before I run this code. Tell me what will be the output. One guy has written the right answer, KYTON for first case. But what is the answer for second case? Correct. He has given the right answer for second case as well. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1. Because the moment var equals to 5, it won't get printed. Apart from that, all the values will get printed. KYTON. Only H will not get printed because whenever the continue statement is encountered, we skip the remaining part of your task or your loop and we go back to the top. Same in this case. The moment continue is encountered, we'll go up here and print it. Okay, that's why you see 9, 8, 7, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Basically 10 will not get printed. That's fine. Why? Because you are decrementing the value first. Clear everybody? Any questions? Goody good, goody good. Then at the end we have pass, which is a very simple one. Okay, what's happening? Okay, sorry. I think I have commented this. Okay, so this is pass. What you do for Python, for letter in Python, if letter equals to H, just pass. Otherwise keep printing. So nothing happens in this case. Python, everything gets printed. So pass is a null operator. It is just written for syntactical correction. Let's say, because if I don't write pass here, it will give you an error, right? Saying expected and indented block, but nothing was given. So pass you just give for syntactical correction. That's it. There's no significance of pass. Okay. So that's it with respect to loops and control statement. But before we close this session, I have a question for you. Okay, and so see, pass statement is a null operation. Nothing happens when it executes. Pass is also useful in places where your code is where the code will eventually go, but has not been written yet. So you have some places where you haven't written your code, but you think you'll write something over there. So at that places you can write pass just for syntactical correction. Otherwise, it has no significant task. It's a null operator. Then, if you want to apply, if you want a do while loop in case of Python, how you have in your C++ or any other programming language, do while, then how do you implement that in Python? Like this. You only have for and while, but if you want to apply do while, this is how you can do it. While true. While true means whenever you enter into this loop, it is always true, irrespective of the condition. So you execute this statement, but while executing the statement, if your condition becomes true, false, basically it becomes true, then you break. So similarly, if you want to compare this with do while loop here, do will run this block of code irrespective of your condition, but it will check the condition at the end. So similarly here also, you'll come into the loop, you'll run your task, but at the end, there's a conditional check. If this condition is true, we'll break. Similarly here, if this condition becomes false, we'll break. So this is equivalence of do while loop. Similarly, you can create your own logic. This is just one of the examples that I wanted to show you to give you that open-mindedness that this is how you can perform different tasks. Now that being said, this is your practice question. It's a very easy one. I want all of you to try it out right now and share your answers with me. I see we have 5 more minutes left, three to 4 minutes left. So I want all of you to give it a try. I'm muting myself. I want all of you to give it a try, and at the end, I'll give you the solution for this question. And I'll just give you 5 minutes for this. Right now, the time is 8:58. You have time till 9:03. Just try and solve it, and then we'll see the solution of this. Okay, try it out and send me the solution in the chat if you find it. The question says, program to find the sum of all numbers stored in the list. So basically you have all the numbers stored in this list. This is your input, and you'll have to sum all the elements of this input and give me the final output. Write a Python program for it. Okay, so just give it a try, guys. I know for few of you it will be very simple, for few of you it might be tough, but I want all of you to give it a try. Just try it out. I'm hoping all of you are trying it out. Yes, good. I have received one answer. I'm copying it and let's see if this is correct. So this is the answer that I have received. Let me try and run this. So it says there is some syntactical error in this, and the error is, so you don't have to specify the data type in case of Python. It's a type inferred programming language. So it takes the type automatically. Okay. Again, sum should be small. What it says indentation. Okay, I think he has already maintained while copying, it got distracted. And okay, p is again small, my bad. Okay, so his answer is correct. Thank you. Let's see the second answer that we have received. Let me copy paste here. Correct. This is also correct. Goody good, guys. So for those of you who are still trying, give it a try. Or I think we're almost done. So let me quickly explain and you guys can give it a try at your home. So this is my list. This is my variable sum, and I'll iterate over this list using my for loop for I in range, or I can also give L over here, whichever suits you. But let me first explain this solution that we have received over here. For range, length, len gives us the length of a. So length of a is what? It is 9. So you get 9 here, and this range function will generate a list for you which looks like this, starting from 0 going till 8. Okay, and one by one, a 0th value of a is 6. You add this to sum, that is 0, and put it inside sum. So this value becomes 6 after first iteration. So sum becomes 6, and we are not printing it right away, we are just storing it until our loop continues. So now again, what will happen? This is 6, second value is 5, so you get 11. Then this is 11, this is 3 for third iteration, 3 plus 11 is 14. Then again this is 14, 14 plus 8 is 22. Then 22 plus 4 is 26, 28, 33, 33 and 37, and then 48. Clear everybody? And at the end you print the value. I hope this is clear to everybody. This was a very easy question. In next class, we'll cover functions, and then we'll try to write our calculator program at the end of the session. Okay. So see you in the next one. If you have any questions, you can ask. Otherwise, we are good to conclude. So I'll wait for 2 more minutes. I'll be here, but you guys can start leaving if you don't have any questions.